Alright, so my move bumpers here. I'm just gonna open it up like this. You can see the parts are neatly packed in there, so it's time to unbox it. Okay, so here's my move bumper out of the box, roughly laid out the way that it's gonna go. The little pieces down in front here are what you're gonna bolt to the frame to mount the center bracket. And then this flat piece back here, that's what you're going to put in to for the light bar. That'll be shown later. But this is the basic kit, and I'm really excited about it. They do include some general instructions to show you just a little bit about how the mounts go and how to put it together, just roughly. And then put your piece through there, put it up through the bolt. You want to snug the bolts enough that the thing doesn't wiggle around a lot. Already measured it out. This right here is my center line. It's this is 34 inches wide. So the center is 17, and I measured from both sides to make sure that the tape measure looks the same from each way. So your center line is going to be critical. You're going to find a way to support it and center it like that. So you got to adjust your mounts to get it there. We've got some car jack stands we can use. So there's a clearance issue with our hook that you may not get when you do it, but this hook is hitting that piece that comes this way. So we're going to cut the hooks off because you can't really get to them anyway. Even if you cut the bumper out around it, there's not a lot of room between the support. Okay, we thought we had it looking good with that side piece on, but then we went to put this on, it was too high. So we've pushed in the center to angle it back, and we're going to try again. So you start with light tack welds. Okay, so the way these brackets mount, this bottom one, this line right here, is supposed to slide up and behind this lip right here. But since you're welding them in place and there's a flat bar that comes right here, it's really tough to do that. So I'm going to cut this off right here so I can get my support onto that hole right there. You can do what you want. Okay, so it's not perfect, but it'll give clearance for that little part to slide up and through there. If I leave the light bar sticking out, or maybe flush, but the further back you put it, the more you're going to be shielding your light. So I'm going to probably have mine mounted closer to flush this way. And then I had my own light bar before the kit, before I got the bumper. So if you bought a light bar from Move, then you may want to do something differently. As I've mounted the bumper the first time here and welded up actually quite a bit, this is sticking out and this side's kind of not, and I can't decide if it's worth the effort to cut it all the way apart and smooth it out. Something I didn't look at close enough before I started doing a lot of welding. I ended up having to cut a mount all the way off because we didn't tack it in place enough before we pulled it off and they moved. just a bunch of stuff to watch out for. Other than that, taking a look at, I'm looking at having the line of the light be what that matches up to, and then just taking a tape measure and eyeballing to try to see, how far out this sticks right here. And it's hard to do with the camera, but anything you can do to try to find your lines. Here, of course, I want that line to match the fender as well as I can. And then just looking down at how this is going to be, and then matching that up with the other side. And this one's going to be tweaked a little bit. I've cut part of it back apart so I can bend it out, but it follows the headlight very well. So I'm pretty happy with the rest of it so far. I just need to weld my mounts in place more before I move anything else. Wanting the end of this to be inside these lines, so we're holding it roughly flat to get an idea of where we want to be, and then we're going to mark that on the pipe. Roughly there, and we're going to make sure it's the same on both sides. Is that close enough?
Yeah.
How's that one?
That'll be fine. This will take care of the rest of it.
Okay.
We get the angle right, so we'll be in business.
The cut. And then we're going to flip the tube upside down after we cut this one, and cut the other one off. I think we're pretty good.
Okay, tighten that down.
All right. But
all right, go ahead.
So our marks were both on the same side of the other tube there. We should have turned one around.
Ready to flush now?
And I'm thinking, as we get this lined up, I think that's about as close. Okay, since our last time together, I've put a skid plate on here. That was a separate project. Now previously I started with these tow hooks, cutting the bumper out so the tow hook could fit, but there's no room behind the bumper to use the tow hook. There's maybe a 1/2 inch of clearance, not really enough to get a meaty hook on, and it'd be a little difficult to fight a strap onto it even if you cut your bumper out to see the hooks. So I cut the hooks off all the way and just ground it down. That'll be painted, and then I gotta put this back in the frame so that the bolt can go through it, because this keeps the frame from clamping together and loosening your bolt so you lose it, and then there's a hole in the support for this bolt to go up through to help hold your bumper. So I want these in there, but I did not find keeping the hooks on as valuable, so they are removed. Yeah. So I'm just working on putting these in, but I'm going to go ahead and paint this before I put them in. So you've got a void to fill there. So this is the bumper all welded up and ready to just be sanded down and painted. Well, not really sanded, just grinding down some of the ugly welds. Because like this right here, rather than find a piece to fill it, I just filled it with weld. But welded in my 2-inch receiver. Used that 1x2 bar to support it. It's stitch welded from the back. You can see the weld marks from the front. The stitches down there. My light bar, again, I did custom for me, so I just used these with that in the bottom so that the bolts don't slide all the way down and drop the light bar out. And used a couple of pieces of the scrap metal they sent me, which I requested, to bring it down. I'm really excited, really happy to get it this close. Now it's just time to get it painted. Here's the bumper. I have ground down the welds pretty well. Gotten it pretty smooth. There's a little bit of filling left to do, and then grind it down again. I want it nice and shiny to paint it. I'm using a 4-inch angle grinder with an 80 grit paddle wheel to sand it after you use just a regular grinder wheel to grind the welds down to a more manageable size depending on how big your weld is. So everything's together and pretty smooth. Just little stuff like this right here, that little hole. You gotta fill it with the welder and then grind it back down because the paint won't cover that.